I wanted to make a Princess Peach cosplay that was over the top, handmade from head to hem, and full of ridiculous detail. It took weeks of sewing, sculpting, and styling, and I documented the whole thing. If you've ever wanted to see what goes into building something this big from scratch, here's how I did it. Disclaimer, this is not a tutorial, but it is a full breakdown on how I built this Princess Peach cosplay from the ground up.
From the custom drafted pattern, to the hand sculpted wig, and the 10-pound petticoat, I made every piece by hand, and it was worth it.
Stick around to the end if you want to see the full thing in motion. And don't miss the next video either, which is the full convention vlog where I take this costume to compete. And without further ado...
So, understructure is the most important part of any cosplay. It's the foundation. We have to build from there, especially on a big ball gown like this. I have a hoop skirt, or a crinoline if you're nasty, that I made several years ago. It's just a basic series of rectangles that are gathered into each other with boning channels in between, some ruffles on the outside, super cute, easy peasy, it's made of cotton. I have reinforced the boning channels on it with more bones because this petticoat was so heavy that it decided that I don't want to hold it up anymore, I'm gonna fall, it's too heavy. And I was like, you're rude, I need you to hold it up. Okay. So there was that. So now I've got my crinoline all situated, I need a petticoat that's gonna make this skirt have its own area code. I'm talking stupid big. Stupid with 2 O's. S-T-O-O-P-I-D. Thank you.
Part 1, a petticoat that will knock over small children.
Hello. Okay. So, here's petticoats for Peach. What I have done is, using my petticoat calculator that I have developed, I have marked out the first layer, circle skirt, sorry, my cut table is not setting up. I've marked out the first layer of cut. You can kind of see where the heat erase ink is. This first radius for me is 7.5, all the way down to here is 34.5, and then I can cut on the same width of fabric and get 1/2 of one circle skirt, but I can also cut all of the teeny tiny narrow ones for layer 3. So, referring to this magical spreadsheet, I'm gonna go ahead and sew these side seams together and press them and then let them hang. And same with the bigger pieces once I get them all cut out, but that's just the kind of the process. Yay. I managed to cut out all the skirt panels. I did have to subdivide the largest panels into 1/8, and I am missing the absolute last one, the last layer of overskirt, but I have all the pieces, so I'm gonna have to piece a section of this on 2 pieces to get that last 1/8 of the skirt to then be 1/4 to then go into the full circle skirt that is the first layer. Okay, so I just finished cutting my skirts, and they've been, I actually didn't just finish, they've been hanging for a couple hours, but I'm gonna keep letting them hang overnight so I can level the hems and stuff. I did have to piece a couple of panels together because I didn't quite have the fabric yardage that I needed, and I'm still missing the, it's actually pretty egregious, but no one's gonna see this. This is in the petticoat, and this is the very bottom layer, so it should be just fine. Anyway, the fabric quantities in the sheet are accurate. I just didn't order enough fabric because I ordered the fabric before I made the calculator, but that's that. Looking pretty good so far. It looks like it's gonna hang exactly where I want it to, so this is a good first step. So the next thing I'm gonna do is cut the waistband out. Even though I'm not gonna need it for a hot minute, I just wanna go ahead and get it cut and pressed and get all the seam allowances accounted for in the closure in, because I'm going to do a tie closure on it rather than a zipper or hook and bar, just because I think that'll be more secure in the long run. So once again, according to my paper, my waistband length should be 39 inches because my waist is 38 inches plus a 1/2 inch of seam allowance on either side, and my waistband width is going to be a total of 5 inches, and then it's folded in half, which means that it'll be, I think it'll be about 2 inches wide when it's done, which is perfect. Okay, so what I've done is I have my strip that is 5 inches wide. I turned this, or I folded it in half and then turned the top facing edge down 1/2 inch for the seam allowance, so that when I'm actually sewing the skirts on, I'll be able to attach them to this bottom edge and it'll be nice and beautiful, and then this top edge will remain untouched. And then when it's done, I can just whip it down by hand and it'll look beautiful. Or if I'm feeling really brave, I can do a little, you know what I'm talking about, the thing that like stitches, like, yeah. I've marked my seam allowances on the half an inch away from the edge, and then I have marked the center front, and then I have marked the halfway points between those as well. This will just help kind of align everything and make sure that we're all situated. I guess it's a center back actually, because I want the closure at the front. So center back, make sure we mark that. Center back. Okay, and then these should be my 2 side seams. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. Okay, so there's been some developments. I am checking my math that was in my Excel spreadsheet, and it is incorrect. There's basically some issues with it calculating the proper length of the net from the waist to the floor. It's ignoring, taking into consideration the width, which is just that. And then it's also only all the so yeah, I'm gonna go adjust the petticoat calculator and reprint it and see how, and then double check my math again. Okay, so I'm on my computer and I've adjusted the values. I did have to add a column called math because I realized the problem wasn't necessarily that I was calculating incorrectly. I've redone some of the math and it seems to be working properly. Update. I've cut most of the netting and organized it accordingly. I'll show that in a second. But I had enough to cut layer 2 and 3, so I just need, or the fabric extra that I ordered, or not extra, the second order of fabric I did is going to be for layer 4, and that'll work just fine. So that's the last 6 yards exactly, which is what I ordered. So okay. But what I did, let me flip my camera. So what I did was, God, it's hard to zoom out. This is my cut table. It's long. This blue mark is exactly 1 yard from the edge of this. So I just measured out 6.5 yards. L3 is less than that, but I just measured out according to the math that was in the thing. So yeah. And then when I'm ready to cut this into the individual strips, I will just do that accordingly. Because of the like additional math that is required from the little petticoat calculator, I will be updating that tutorial on how to use it because it is a little complex. But yeah, here's my dress form with the waistband up top. We still got our skirt streeping and stretching out so that I'll be able to cut them. My fancy new electric scissors should get here tomorrow, so I'll be able to start cutting these into strips and the endless task of cutting organza into the 8-inch wide strips. I did verify. I was like, they're 7 inches finished, so it's half inch, that's 8 inches. Yeah. So yeah, it is a new day. So I'm cutting out my netting pieces into their final strips and things of that nature. In terms of like, I cut out the full yardages yesterday in their like widths, but now I need to cut them to their lengths, just in halves or quarters, just whatever is, you know, accurate. That's what I need. But I am measuring it out. I did go ahead and do some more math already to make sure I could cut accurate lengths, you know, of what I needed. And so those little things, those are my layer 3B yardage, and there's 4 8-yard sections of that, which is what I need to ruffle onto these 2 4-yard sections. But if you notice, there are some places where I did have to do some piecing, and that's because I didn't do my math right the first time. And that's okay, it's okay, it's okay. So all I'm doing is I'm just serging them together. It doesn't really matter that there's extra bulk here because it'll actually help make the petticoat bigger. But you're not gonna see it. So like it's really genuinely fine. My mom is yelling from the other room. Anyway, so I'm just gonna keep it on measuring and piecing. I did order, like I said, that extra netting, so it'll be here so I can cut out layer 4A and B with that, and that should be just fine and dandy.
So I realize up to this point in the video that I probably haven't explained the petticoat process as well as I should have, because it's kind of intuitive, but essentially I need to make a base skirt to put a ruffle on the bottom of, and the skirts underneath those skirts are all made up of rectangles that are ruffled into each other to give that volume of that stupidly large petticoat we're looking for. So essentially, the petticoat calculator I'm talking about throughout these clips was just my way of compartmentalizing that process, and it's actually going to be an available resource for you guys to download once I make that tutorial and post it on the channel later as well. But what I'm doing here in this clip is cutting the ruffle fabric to its yardages, again as calculated in the sheet. At a different point, I'll go through and subdivide these, up into their 8-inch sections, and then do the yapping.
Okay, so I've gotten my organza sections out and I separated them by what layer they're on. So this is all of the yardage for layer 1, and I'm going to now cut these strips out, and then I'm going to serge them together, and then I'm going to serge the top and bottom edge, and then we'll get there when we get there. That's done. I'm going to kind of unpin these and pin them together and do some maintenance on them. It's not really important to me that they're perfectly straight. For example, she's got a little bit of a curve in there, but it's okay. It's okay. It'll all even out once I'm putting on the horsehair and stuff and serging the edges. So we are going to true up these edges as we go. Okay, it is May 5th. The convention is June 20th. And I still haven't finished the petticoat. So I'm about to turn myself into a ruffle factory because I've been waiting on bits and pieces of things for forever. And my finishing quantity of ribbon should be here tomorrow. Not tomorrow, Wednesday. Today's Monday. And I just got in my new thread cones for my serger, and that should be enough to get me through, and if it's not, then we're gonna have other issues. But yeah, so I'm gonna make all of the ruffle yardage and just do my best to keep it organized.
So what I'm doing in this clip is serging the top and bottom edges of the crystal organza, because if I don't, then it will fray beyond belief and look absolutely horrible. And here I am attaching the horsehair to the bottom edge, or what will be the bottom edge of this organza ruffle. If you're wondering why I chose to do this by serger, it was simply to save thread in time, mostly time, because, when your bobbin runs out, you have to refill it and then put it back in the machine. It takes like forever. But if you just have a serger where you have 2 loopers and 2 needle threads, you can just and then get it done. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. And here I am starting to attach the ribbon, sandwiching over the horsehair. I wanted to make sure that the hems of this petticoat was like really pretty, which I didn't explain previously, so sorry. But I wanted to hem them with ribbon even before I decided to put horsehair on there as well, because it looks pretty.
I forgot to film what I've been doing, but I tried to pin the ruffle to the face skirt, and then I got impatient. And then I remember this really cool, fun and fresh technique, and it involves a tool that all of us have. Okay, so this, ladies and gentlemen, oh god, this is very difficult to hold, is a fork pleat. You slide your fork in, whoop, and then you twist, bam, pull the fork out, and then you're going to stitch until you catch the very end of that pleat you just did, bam. Now we're going to pick our foot up and kind of align that just a little bit, like whoop, 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 whoop. Get you in there so you can see what I'm doing, whoop, whoop, whoop. Put back down, straighten this out, and we go again. On repeat. Because this fork is about 1 inch-ish wide, so I'm getting 1 inch like wide pleats, and they look really, really nice when they're all like, see what I mean? Like they're really even. Like shockingly, I mean not shockingly, because you're using a tool that is exactly 1 inch wide to make exact 1 inch wide little knife pleats. So yeah, again, technically they are knife pleats, but because I'm using a fork, I'm calling them fork pleats. Good morning. I once again have caught an error in my math, and it's fine. It's not huge because I have enough fabric to kind of fix the problem, but my layer 2 ruffles fabric was cut significantly, like a third of what I need, so that's cool. Essentially, I need 12 yards, and I have 4.5 yards of total fabric cut. So I'm going to combine the 2 that I have, and still be short. But yeah, that works. No, I'm cutting this cutting the finished order as not the right width. Okay, so here's where this gets tricky. I forgot to film the rest of the petticoat making process. But what I did to finish it was repeat the horsehair onto the ribbon process on all of the ruffles. I then ruffled the ruffles onto the netting layer, and then sewed the netting layers together, ruffled the netting to the other netting, and then put the netting into the waistbands. It was a lot, but I promise next time I make a video, it will have B-roll. Anyway, here's the next part. Part 2, a really, really, really heavy set of skirts. You know what day it is? It's skirt day! So, here's what I've done. I have my waist measurement, which again for this project is 38 inches. I multiplied it by 2.5, which is 97.5. I then rounded it to 100 inches, and I have cut 100 inches on the straight grain, or just of the yardage of this fabric, because the base layer of the skirt is just going to be a rectangle that's gathered down, because I want it to be simple. I then, because this is 60 inches long, I have measured up 10 inches from the selvage, because I'm going to serge this top of the selvage off when wow, this is really shaky, and I'm so sorry. I'm going to serge this off when I go to put it into a waistband anyway, and this bottom edge, technically my final length is going to be 47 to 48 inches long from my waist to the bottom of my petticoat. So what I've done is, again, measured up 12 inches from the bottom and then added back in 1.5 inches-ish for a bunch of stuff, horsehair, piping. If I decide to add piping, we'll see, but horsehair, and then I'm going to mark across the whole yardage. I'm going to measure, I think 6 inches is how wide I want the bottom ruffle to be, and then we'll go from there. Okay, what I've done so far, I have put a 4-inch horsehair and a 1/2 inch horsehair on the hem of this, so then, flip and do the pretty thing, like, wow! But I'm also going to attach another 1/2 inch to the top of just this horsehair to give it even more stiffness, because this horsehair is like super thin and flimsy, and I kind of hate it, but this horsehair is like super rigid, which is what we want for this, so, yeah. I'm going to move to my sewing machine and stitch this down once more. It's kind of crazy how many times I sew my horsehair, but results are very crazy. So, okay. Next on the agenda, Next on the agenda is to cut the ruffle that's going to go on the bottom, and so I'm literally just going to cut 2.5 times the length of the final length of that skirt that I just put horsehair on, and we're going to go crazy, dude. Okay, it's been like an hour. That made it worse. Okay, I have hemmed both sides of the ruffle that's going to be on the bottom of this base skirt, and I got this wavy texture by when I was roll hemming it. I was putting tension on it because the stretch of the fabric goes this way, so I was making sure to keep tension on it so it would wave. And then when I go through and gather it, I'm gonna gather it like an inch or so from the top, so that I get like a thick ruffle on the bottom and a little on the top, because I think that'll be cute. But that way when I ruffle it like an inch or so from the top, it'll also have the internal like wave of this. The top edge I roll hemmed once, and the bottom edge, you can see that thread is a little thicker on this side because I roll hemmed it through the serger once with the blade on. I then turned the blade off and then roll hemmed it again, so it would be stiffer on the bottom edge. So I changed my mind on how I'm going to do the ruffle on the bottom of the base skirt, and instead of meticulously hand pleating it like I should do, I have done a couching stitch, and I have couched a like twine cord in to gather it quickly, because I think this is gonna be better, you know, and that's the front side, so it'll look really cute. And then when it's all gathered up the right, you know, lengths and such, I will like stitch it down the right way and remove the couching cord. I don't know what it's called. I'll remove the cord and then cover it with, I want to cover it with gold bias tape, but I am out of gold bias tape. I only have piping, and I can't do the piping because it'll look, unless I like put 2 piping on, it'll look unfinished if I just do 1 layer. So I need to I just need to get some gold bias tape. Anyway, let me get some gathering now. The couching threads and trimmed it, so now it is time for me to kind of arrange this gathering in a controlled manner and get it to be even across this hemline, so when I flip it, like it'll be attached straight on this edge, but it'll flip up in the wind and such and be pretty and ruffly, and it's turning out really good. I'm really excited about it. Okay, now that this is pinned on, I'm gonna literally just sew it down probably about a 1/4 inch below. Can't really see what I'm talking about, can you? Whoa, 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 whoa. Okay, there's the couching line. That is that giant, dense, bright pink stuff. And I'm gonna sew about probably level or a little bit lower than that when I go to attach it, so that when I pull the couching all the way out, actually I might, low-key might leave it, because when I cover it with whatever I end up covering it with, that'll be a good foundation to attach it to. But look how neat. Like, it's gonna look so nice. So now I'm going to do everything I just did on the ruffles to the waist part of this, so I can really neatly gather it into my waist measurement and then sew it onto a waistband that doesn't exist yet, but it will very shortly. This is why you measure, because then you make something really nice. And then, well, you can't see, but it's not wide enough to go over the petticoat, so I have to split it and add more, like, oh, well, that's fixable. That's why you use tiny scissors or a seam ripper, rather than trying to do the cool thing of just tearing out the stitches on this stretch taffeta anyway. You could see what I'm doing, but it's really hard because I don't have a lot of space. And that's my new single, because in the back it's laying perfect. That's how I want it to lay. But as you can see, there is a large, very large section that is not covered. Set up, so I'm basically just going to sew a big triangle of fabric on and kind of. Okay, so there's a problem with my workspace and the size of this project. The problem is every time I try to exit the room, the petticoat gets caught on, whether it be not my furniture, door handles, doorways, whatever, but it keeps ripping from the serging, and not like a little bit like that example, like we're talking like whole sections where it comes attached. And I'm really confused because I've never had this problem with this fabric before. I've used this specific crystal organza many times in petticoats and never had problems with it just shredding out from the serged edge before. So I'm gonna have to address that as I once again repair this petticoat and wrestle it under my sewing machine. And I'm definitely not really pissed about it, but it's fine. It's fine, because it'll all work out and be just fine and dandy. Okay. I just filmed this whole section but realized I wasn't recording. Okay, so what did I say? I tried on the skirt yesterday. I'm like remembering. I tried on the skirt yesterday. It was beautiful. It was amazing. But I didn't like how in the front of the skirt, like from my waist, was going down and then whoop, like a cliff on the end of it, because the petticoat is shorter so I can take a step and not die. But the skirt is meant to be a little bit longer. But because the ruffle is so heavy, it was like thump and just like didn't look quite right. So I had my mom come in and help me pin it up in the front so I could like actually, like, because I want you to see the petticoat. I worked hard on it. It's pretty. So had her help me pin it up, and then now I'm going to hand sew it in place, just in that front section, because it'll almost be like a little bit of a high-low, because I like the way it looked in the back when it was doing that, but in the front it was like, you know. So I'm going to do that really quick, and then I'm going to cut the second layer skirt. Okay, I don't know how this happened, but I just, you know, broke this needle. This is a big ass needle. Just snapped it. Okay, well, that's fun. It has been a hot minute because I forgot to film because I suck. But here's what's happened in the last couple days. That's unrelated. We'll talk about that in a minute. This is also unrelated in the fullest extent. Okay, so the petticoat's durability is stressing me the out because for some reason the organza keeps shredding, and I don't know why, because I've used this product before in many other colors and never had issues with it, so I don't know why all of a sudden now she's like, no. And I'm like, oh, cool, so you want me to freaking... Anyway, I cut what was a 3/4 circle skirt in this beautiful taffeta. I added a gold piping and this white trim that's super cute, and then I gathered the front edge of the flat part of the skirt up, and this will create my swoopy skirt, like apron front thing that goes underneath the swag. It's the one that goes like swoop down. This fabric gathers really pretty, and I like it because it's really pretty or whatever. Anyway, this is the layer that the embroidery will go on, which I should be picking up today if they give me the invoice in which I can like actually go pick it up, you know, but I've been waiting for like literally 2 months on it. The first thing I made for this costume was this layer, which is the entirety of the hip swags. And if you notice, it's really long. This is a full-length skirt that will make it really pretty when I go to gather it up. For the hem, here's the front side. It looks and appears as if I have attached a tape of the same fabric and then the piping, but if you look on the back, it's actually a blind hem that I'm calling a false blind hem because it's not really a blind hem because you can totally see it, but like it looks really cool from, you know, pretty far away. But I'm then going to take this part, it goes around, and this is exactly half of my waist measurement, or a little bit more, and then all of this gets gathered up into this, whoop, and then this goes to the front like that, so it's all poofy, and then another point in the back, and we got, bam, a hip swag. So I'm gonna mark this part into thirds, then draw lines from the waist to the hem, and then start gathering. So that's really fun and fresh, and I'm very excited to be done with the skirts, because once the skirts are done, I can do the bodice, and the bodice is the part I'm excited about because I have a lot of things I want to do to it. Anyway, so I'm going to do all the things that I said. All of these skirts have independent waistbands because I want the freedom to adjust the height from the waist. So if I want more of the petticoat to show or more of the ruffle to show, because this should sit right level with that ruffle in the back and then arc up toward the front. So that is that. I'm kind of going crazy low-key, but it's what it is. Yeah, that's the current state of things. Today is May 13th, May 13th. And the convention is June 20th. So I have a little under a month to finish everything. Woo! There's a lot of real estate in the back of this skirt at the bottom hem. So, behind the scenes, I guess you already know about it, it's the embroidery, but I just got back the pieces today. That's what this whole pile of stuff is, but there's a bunch of smaller pieces, like these kind of leaf filigrees, and there's a bunch of these little hearts that I did and sent off, like a bunch. And then I have these beautiful, like heart kind of swirly twirlies. They're very pretty. And then we have the crown jewels, which I'm so excited about. So I have 2 of these star frames that are gonna go kind of toward the front of the skirt. And there are just like the detail, there's a little star up in there. Like, they're so cute. They turned out perfect. I'm very excited about them. And then we size up a little bit, and then we have the mushroom version. It's like 10% bigger, like side by side. Hang on. You know, it's just a little bit larger, so it'll be further back on the skirt, probably toward the side seam. And then we get to the center back, the crown jewel, literal crown jewel. It's so beautiful. The gold metallic thread, like, it just glitters the way it's stitched on. It is stunning, and it just, it's gonna look so good against the pink too. Like, it is perfect. And then I have all those little pieces to kind of decorate around this with and lead them together. Like, it's, oh my god, my brain, it's so pretty. But this is stitched on tearaway stabilizer and water soluble stabilizer, which I'm not going to water soluble eyes right now. When I steam it on the garment, it will be dissolved then, but I need to use the stabilizer as it is now to stitch it onto the garment by hand, and then tear away the I'm going to tear away the tearaway first, and then steam the water solubleness away later. So it will be super crisp, sewn onto the garment, and then I can do touch up. But yeah, just really, I'm really happy with how the digitization on this turned out. It looks stunning. The first skirt closes with hooks and bars in the back. The second skirt closes with hooks and bars in the front. And the third skirt, which is the hip swag, hooks and bars to the bodice.
Part 3. The bodice that served cunt so fiercely and violently it made me evaporate from this plane of existence.
The way that I am doing this bodice, tackling it, taking it down, okay? I'm doing the cosplayer method, which is not what I normally do, but I knew that I wanted this to have a really close fit, so I was like, screw it, let me put on a trash bag, cut. Cut to the footage, back me up, past me. It's bodice day. What I'm gonna do with this corset on is I'm gonna put on my bra that I made specifically for this, made by getting a commercial bra, putting a liner in and stuffing it, because each got boobs, but not like my breastplate boobs. So I'm gonna put this on. Okay, great. Things sitting. Right, so the first thing I'm doing in this section is actually putting on a trash bag rather than just wrapping myself up in saran wrap first. I find that this is a little bit easier to get into and it saves plastic. And then the next step you're gonna see is me actively right now taping lines of solid duct tape on me to get a cast. I'm only doing half of my body because I know that I'm pretty symmetrical, at least in the bodice region. It's the sections that are not the bodice, like my sleeves and pant legs, etc., that are not super symmetrical, so there's that. But I'm taping half my body. I started with a line on my waist that was marking my waistline and also cinched me in a little bit, and then I marked a center front line, and then I worked out from there. Okay, so I've taped half my body. I've marked on seam lines where I want them for Princess Peach. There is a center front line, but this will be center fold over. And then there's shoulder seam, side back, center back seams. Center back will be a lace up because adjustability, but I'm gonna go license some help to get myself out of this duct tape shell. Although I wish I could just like, oh, wait. Really funny if I left all this in. Okay, so now what I'm gonna do is I'm going to cut this apart at the designated lines, and then I'll meet back. Okay, so here's my back pattern, and there's my front pattern, and now I'm gonna translate this to paper and then true up some seams to make sure that all of this funkiness from the duct tape is flat. Okay, so I'm editing and I don't know why that last clip looks so bad. Okay. So what I have is a big ass roll of
This is not butcher paper, this is different, but a lot of people use butcher paper. This is like floor protection paper that you use when you paint your house, and it's actually wider than butcher paper, which is great, so I don't have to tape sections together. All of my pattern pieces for this bodice will fit on the width of this paper. So I'm just gonna roll out an unidentified length of pattern, but enough to be like, oh, that'll cover both of the sides of the bodice, you know, so. Yeah, next thing I'm gonna do is just lay out my pieces and I have them labeled. This is center front too, and I'm just going to boop, 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 around onto this piece of butcher paper, and then I will go through and I'll add seam allowances into the final iteration of the pattern, or I'll just cut it and then remember, hopefully, to add my seam allowance back in. But in this section of this time lapse, all I'm going over is where the waistline is of the bodice, how it fits me, specific details about where it's going to hit after the corset's on, and all that jazz. It's really not that important, but I'm just trying to zip through it because this video is going to get kind of long if I go through and detail all the footage that I went through, so we're just kind of zip zaps up through it. Thank you so much for understanding. Okay, so a lot has happened in the past 24 hours. I can actually walk in this room now, which is pretty slay, if you ask me. That was great. Anyway, I did finish my mock-up of the bodice. Sorry, I'm off frame. And here's what the seam structure looks like. I didn't have enough black cotton, so I had to use some white, but I like that it's going to really amplify that curve. This will be the ruche panel here. You can kind of see that seam horizontally. This will be where the brooch goes. It's about this big, so it'll be pretty in scale. I like when the seam allowance is gone off of this, it'll sit right at my points on my shoulders when it's all on. Obviously I'm not wearing my corset or bra right now, but like it does fit very, very well. And these seams aren't pressed, but the seam structure is great. So now I'm going to measure this arm's eye, make sure that again it sits pretty much exactly where I want it to. Ooh, hey, gotta get that in there. Yep, that's sitting around my arm. There's enough gappage for me to move comfortably, and it still fit really well, so that's good. I'm going to now draft a sleeve pattern. And I don't really have any tips for this because I just kind of eyeball it every time, but I make sure that the top of my sleeve head is this long, and then I'm going to make a fitted undersleeve that the puff sleeve will sit on top of, so I don't have to feel any of the sleeve structure, because I need to give it some volume to it so it like holds its puff, you know? So yeah, that should be better. So now I'm gonna cut this out. Try it. Take. Oh, right, I forgot a crucial part. Straight lines don't work, you have to arc them out. Duh. It's been a long time since I drafted patterns like from scratch. I did it in school, but I haven't done much of it since then because most of the actual sewing is finding a close enough pattern and doing it. So we're gonna up that by like 3 whole inches, yeah. We sure are. Okay. It'll have a little bit of wiggle room, which is exactly what I want because I hate it when sleeves are like constrictively tight. I don't want to have a meltdown because I'm already going to be fighting this dress the whole day, so like, no. Okay. Sorry, I started the film. So in this section, I was talking about how I was going to add a little white scalloped edge underneath the pink scallop edge, but I decided not to because I was lazy, but also because it would have added a lot of bulk at the sleeve right on my arm, and I didn't want to deal with that all day because I didn't want to have a sensory meltdown. Thank you so much. I don't have any fray check, so I can't do the fray check scallop method, which works beautifully, and I wish I had fray check, but I don't have it, and I don't want to go out and get any, so I'm going to do it a different way. So in typical me fashion, I changed my mind. So what I did, this is the sleeve. What I have done is it's double layered. One of the layers has interfacing on it. And I have inset the beautiful ruffle, or not ruffle, scalloped edge, what is this called? Scalloped edge. I'm going to press the ever-living crap out of it so it lays really, really flat and beautiful. I might do a little top stitch detail, haven't decided yet. But this was made with the same manner that the sleeves are made of, so there's one layer with interfacing and one layer that's plain, and then I scalloped over the edge twice and then cut it, and I actually fused the edges with fire.
because she's chaotic. No, but that actually, because this fiber is like 100% synthetic, it melts it into form, so it will not fray. I'm like really proud of this. Like, it's really pretty. It's very pretty. I love. But now I'm going to press the shit out of it so it will lay. Like, I'm gonna press it as sewn, and then I'm gonna turn it and press it open one way, and then I'm gonna turn it all the way and press it again. Screw it. We're doing a pressing montage. Do 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 do. Do, 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 do. Me not stopping the recording is so funny. I said you're gonna see every part of this. We framed up, you're framed up enough. I'm going to press it as sewn. Ooh, wiggle it. Gonna flip it, and I'm gonna press it again. Also, I did serge the edge that it's connected to, so it's like very minimal seam allowance. Now I'm gonna press this side open, just like this. Oh my god, this is gonna look beautiful. Make sure it's sitting how it's supposed to sit. Beautiful. Press it. Hey, guess what? Things you press are hot. Don't touch them. Now, I'm gonna flip this all the way over. Bam. And I'm gonna press it one more time. One more time! If you wonder why I do the wiggle when I iron, it's because I'm trying to press, like I'm wiggling this stuff up so it presses flatter. It's just a technique that I've done for forever, and it works really, really well to get stuff situated where it needs to be. Beautiful. Look at that. Oh my god. Makes me want a hot dog real bad. Look how beautiful. Oh my god, I'm like actually stunned. This is pretty. She ate that. 4-course dinner, you know what I mean? Like, that's a meal right there. I think I will actually do a top stitching detail. Like some kind of, maybe like an embroidery little thing that's over the top. That'll be pretty. Or I can do, I should have put piping in it. It is way too late to do that now. Oh man. I can still do a cording detail that'll match the bodice once I get the cording in. Darn. Okay, well actually, no, because you won't see this anyway. Never mind. Because this is all covered by the poof of the sleeve. Okay. Well. This is my bodice mock-up, right? I've decided that this piece and this piece are going to be in the dark pink, and they're going to have some like pretty quilting details on them. And then this one up here is the same pink. You can't really see, but there's a trapezoid shape here. This one will also be that pink, and that's where the big brooch goes. And the brooch, for reference, is this big. This is my test 3D print. The real one should be here in a couple days. But it's pretty darn chunky. Anyway, so she's pretty big. And yeah, so that will be a nice kind of contrast. They should only touch at the apex point, which is right there. And even so, like, there'll be piping going in both directions over it. So what I have done, so what I have done, right, I already did the sleeves to show you those. But what I've done is I've flatlined these pieces. So each of these, it's 2 layers of fusible interfacing and 2 layers of the taffeta. So what I'm gonna do is sew these together, right? I'm not putting piping in this seam because I'm gonna quilt over top of it, but I am gonna make it into boning channel. So I'm going to sew it press it again into the boning channel, and then stitch it very discreetly into the boning channel and insert my sew through boning. I'm using sew through boning so I can quilt over top of it, so the boning channel is very discreet. She's invisible. And then I'm also gonna go ahead and put the piping on this top edge so it's prepped to go into the other panel of the bodice, because putting the piping on the other edge would be really difficult to attach it together. So if I put the piping on this edge, it'll be easier to sew together later. Big brain. Anyway, so that's what I'm gonna do. Just gonna make them cast. This is a stretch fabric, a two-way stretch fabric, and the stretch goes this way on this piece, but because I have eliminated that stretch with fusible interfacing, it won't warp out of form when I go to sew it to the bodice, and it can hold a lot of tension. I'm not planning for this to be like a corset, like it will be a lace-up back with boning, but it might end up being a corset. I'm going to mark out my quilting details over the top of this because I unfortunately don't have the cording, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to grid it, right? Grid it. I'm having a stroke. I'm going to mark it with the grid, and then I'm going to use that grid to couch on a gold cord. So it'll give me a grid on top of that.
Hello, back to voiceover Linda. So essentially, I forgot to film the making of this center front stomacher panel, but it's a bunch of different kinds of pleating arrangements alternated with a lace trim that I used on the skirt and on the gloves to kind of make it cohesive. And yeah, it was pretty simple.
It's been several hours. I had to deliver a commission an hour or so away, so I've taken a little step back and gotten back to the studio. I got a tripod for the camera that's coming eventually. Let's see, but I have all of my panels cut out for the bodice. These are the back panels, and you'll notice that I have 4 of them. I said I was flatlining it, which is correct. So every panel I've cut out twice, and I've applied interfacing to both layers because I need this to be real stiff. Because I'm putting so much boning and tension into this, I need it to not have any stretch whatsoever. And this fabric is a two-way stretch, and I believe I have positioned the panels accordingly to where they'll have minimal stretch horizontally and vertically. So yeah, the first thing I'm going to do is actually sew this seam together. This is my center back, and I'm going to put them right sides together, like the internal panels, because I need that edge to be finished. So I'm going to put them right sides together. I'm going to sew like a 1/4 inch along, and then I'm going to flip it and reverse it. I'm going to press it, and then I'm going to insert the first bone. And this is my center back bone that will anchor all of the eyelets into the panel. As soon as my other camera gets here, I would love to film that for you, but I want to watch YouTube on my phone while I make things, so. Okay, not to brag, but like, look how beautiful and perfect that is. Oh my goodness. Yeah, yeah, I've just decided, yeah. Lacing panels and attached the next panel. I did mean to put piping in here, but upon reflection of if I should seam rip this apart after the seams are already pressed and clipped, the answer is no. So this seam will not have piping, but the next one over will have piping, and we're just gonna call that good. I might put piping on the shoulder seam, probably not, honestly, because that might look weird, but this, it's a very long panel. It does go up my entire spine, so it'll be kind of a pain in the butt to get out of the way. It'll be kind of a pain in the butt to lace up, but hopefully it'll help. If not, then I'll just go to the con without it laced up and be like, hey, can someone lace me up? And someone, I'm sure, will be like, oh sure girl, thanks. I'll be like, thank you so much, here's $1. Like, anyway, the next thing, like, these panels are pretty much done until I have the bodice ready to be attached to itself. I already pressed my seam allowances apart. I'm gonna top stitch both of them down. Even though this one has notches in it, I'm just gonna sew over like where it should be and put bones in both sides. I know that this has holes in it, and it's like, oh, you should have continuous boning channels. I use sew through boning. It's not gonna stab me. It's like Rigilene, it's not going to stab me, okay? A lot of people don't like their boning channels to be visible on the bodice, but I think it looks really nice when it's done correctly, so I like to have my boning channels visible on my bodice so you can tell, oh, she's boned, like that's a corset, and it's like, yeah girl, it's a corset on top of a corset, because I'm stitched, I'm skinny. I'm so tired. Okay, I have done a lot of things since we last talked. I have my corset, here's the quilting detail. Here's the bodice in its current state. It is really stiff, which does in fact make it a little bit hard to wear and hard to get into, like with the sleeves specifically, but we're gonna make it work. I'm gonna put on my bra, because I have to be a bug. I'm getting. Here we go. Oh my god, so much. Yesterday, I finally put sleeves on the bodice, and it didn't quite fit right. Number one, they are just too far off. You can maybe see that there's a pin right here. They're just too far off my shoulder, so it makes the armscye lower, which means I can't lift my arm because I'm holding up the whole bodice. So that's number one. Number two, it's about 2 grommets too high in the back, which is totally fine. So what I'm gonna do is, true up a line that goes all the way around the neck base, trim it down, make sure I have enough seam allowance here to put up my collar, and it'll be fine and dandy. Number 3, this is not a fit issue, but I feel like this beautiful grid quilting looks a little out of place on this bodice for many reasons. It just looks too plain up here. And of course, we have to keep in mind that there will be a big ass brooch and gem. Like, that'll help fill up this space a little bit. I do have a bunch of these little heart kind of swoopy swoop embroideries that I didn't use or didn't end up using on the skirt or haven't used on the skirt yet. And so I'm thinking that I will frame, help transition from really aggressive, quilting structure, maybe put them here to kind of draw the eye up toward my face a little bit. And I wish you could see it better, so I'm gonna bring it in real close. I think I'm gonna put them there because that'll look really, really cute. And the glory about these is I can machine stitch them on. Current game plan is take the sleeve out, redo the armscye. Strongly consider putting these on, preferably by machine, because I am getting exhausted from hand sewing. I do not have time to hand sew 2 of these on, let alone all the ones I still have to do on the skirt. And then after that's done, we'll go from there, because I don't want to say I'm frustrated with this project, because I love parts of how it's turning out. Right now, to me, it just feels very fragmented. It doesn't feel cohesive, and part of the problem is this beautiful grid work, but I'm not getting rid of that because it looks amazing. I forgot to film a check-in, so here we are. Okay. I have done some more work on the bodice. It doesn't choke me out as bad anymore. I probably could do with trimming this down a little bit more, but I like where it sits now. The armscye is opened up, so now I can actually move my arm and stuff, which is very nice. I have done these I can't remember if I filmed this, but I did these 2 little appliques on it because I needed to tie this to this just a little bit more. It's very structured, so it's kind of hard to get off. I did cut off 2 whole grommets from the back top because it was so tall on the back. This is the trimming from the neckline. And here is my stand collar. It is a tube of fabric with interfacing and scalloped across the edge. I did also add a little, because I was like, what's a little more gold? What's a little bit more? I did already attach it once, so I don't know if you can see that stitch line, and it was all the way up here. So I'm gonna trim that down probably to make the initial stitch line or the top stitching line, because it was attached like this kind of. And so that was where it was and I was like, no, we're not gonna do that. So I'm gonna press it, trim it, reserge it, and then attach it again in a manner that won't choke me out because that is just too tall. Anyway, so that's the current game plan. I did the scallops I did the scallops in the same way I did the sleeves. Oh, also, I sewed a couple of darts. They're very right here at the top because it was too wide there. And after those darts went in, the whole thing was in the back. It's so you think I'm skinny? Anyway, so it looks really nice now.
I am so ready for this to be done. No, but I have to level the hem. Like, do you see that jankiness right there where there's like inches, plural, that it's not aligned? Yeah, I have to figure out how I'm gonna level that. And then I'm gonna use the rest of this pink fabric and make like a little frill to go on the bottom rather than just a plain gold binding. Like, I'm gonna do the gold piping in between the frill and the thing because gold. I'm also going to redo these sleeves because I don't like how, when I attached them the other day, I don't like how it hangs, you know? And I think it needs to be puffier, like, not the bottom. The bottom is, I like the way the bottom looks, it's just this part. But honestly, I might not do it because this is a lot of fabric and these are really well made and I don't really want to redo it. Like, if you lift it up, you can see there's gold piping in there, but it like folds down and covers it. So it's only if you're like looking for it, it's there. It's very subtle, it's very pretty. But yeah, so I think I'm just gonna suck it up and not redo them, but I am going to add a frill, like an inch and a half long to the top. So it like will go and like kind of flittle over the top once again out of this darker pink fabric to give some contrast. I honestly really like the way that that looks, but this is the color. So I'm gonna do that, a little frill, and then I'm also gonna use the frill to extend the sleeve head a little bit. Because I have widened the arm's eye, this measurement is no longer correct. So I need to add something like an extension panel to get it to be a little bit longer. So that frill is a perfect way to do that. And it'll mean that I'm not sewing in this bulk to the seam, I'm attaching the frill to the seam. I will have to interface the frill, which means it has to be 2 layers thick, unfortunately, but it shouldn't be that big of a deal. Anyway, so that's the current game plan. Frill to sleeve head, sleeve into bodice, collar, cut into bodice, level hem of bodice, put piping, and then another frill on the bottom. And then it's done. Like, it's done. In the interest of making this video not 10 hours long, I went ahead and cut section 4, which was supposed to be the wig, and we're just gonna skip it to the final reveals because, again, I didn't want this video to be any longer than it already is. That bodice section is probably too long, but, you know, next time we live and learn. Anyway, on to the final reveal. So this has been the Princess Peach dress, and for context, this is the first cosplay build I've done in over 10 years. It's explicitly for cosplay, not drag. I mean, for me, they kind of hold hands, but explicitly for cosplay. Costume, first one in 10 years. So if you have any questions, comment below. Please like and subscribe. I really appreciate that. It really helps. And maybe next time you see me, my video quality won't be total doo-doo butthole. Bye.